Okay, I think we got things working. This looks a little bit better than it did before. Okay, yeah, this looks way better. So what I'm going to do now is I got to go and put this story link. Let me know, guys, if this audio sounds okay. If it doesn't and it sounds like crap, I got to do this again, but it should sound a lot better now. So essentially, this might be a little bit of a clickbait title. I don't know. I just thought of a title. I wanted to go on live today because I have kind of the day off. I'm just editing an ad read for Story Blocks, and I have some spare time. So I decided to kind of talk about where I see things going, at least as far as a lot of modern day filmmakers. And I think one thing that I kind of want to do is like what I kind of see as the definition of that, because of the way the age that we're in. I think a lot of things have changed, but kind of where I see things going next. Also, like for myself and kind of where I see those things going as well. So, put a one in the chat if you are here. If you have a keyboard, welcome back to the lives. I'm gonna start doing them on my own as well. I can't have guests all the time, but we're gonna make these a little bit more regular. So, I hope you guys have some popcorn. You have something to do because I am literally just editing and just kind of chatting today because I don't know. I'm at home, so. If you're in the building, if you're from Canada, throw something up. Also, again, let me know if you guys could hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Loud and clear. Thank God. This took me a long time to figure out. It actually drove me insane that I couldn't figure this out. Ben from England can hear you all good. There's a lot of international people. Cayman Islands, that's dope. There's a ton of people that are in the live streams and also like that comment on stuff that are nowhere near where I live. Like I live in Toronto, and you often like there's like a kind of a pile of people that we all live here. We're all creators here, but it's also real funny like hearing someone's like, I'm from Cayman Islands or like I'm from South Africa. I'm like, y'all watch this? Cool. Shoot, I don't know. Panel one motion or one panel motion. What up? Yeah, today we're just kind of talking some stuff, man. Like I've had a lot of things on my mind in terms of like this filmmaking thing. I've had a lot of things on my mind in terms of where I see things going. I'm very much like a hybrid creator in a lot of ways where I do photography gigs every now and again. I just did one for a ping pong company. I do stuff for um, I'll do like video projects for some things where I'm doing stuff for like ads and stuff like that with some of the companies that I work with. And then I'm also doing this YouTube thing, and like all of it kind of culminates into not just being like a filmmaker per se, but overall you're just a media company, right? Like it's just you're becoming way bigger than just a person that does video and then works on projects that are interesting to them, right? You're becoming way bigger than that. And the fact that I love the FX30 for this because you can start that media company, that media legacy with something as small as that camera, which is nice. Of course, I watch my FX30 source. Actually, something I want to talk about with that as well, because I did put out a community post a little while ago talking about the idea of like selling all my gear and starting from zero and then like going on that journey with you guys. And I got a lot of feedback, some of it positive, some of it negative. And it was interesting because for the most part, there was a lot of positive affirmation around the idea of maybe talking a little bit more at eye level and to be fair, a lot of the gigs that I'm going to be working on, like we're shooting a short film on the Sony Burano. Like I've done music videos on the Red Raptor. I still have my KX for things that I need it for. I kind of want to scale things back about talking about some of the things that are at like unreasonably high levels where I feel like when you watch it, it's, is it interesting? Cool. Yeah, you get to see those things in action, but what can you take away from it? Which becomes something where I think I'm losing touch a little bit. And overall, like I am just as much as a hybrid shooter as I am a teacher, and a lot of those things go into my personal brand. So on one end, people saying just shoot whatever you want to shoot, and people should like it, but at the same time, I'm like that's not really doing a service of people that I came up with to begin with, and you guys, right? And also, like I find a lot of fulfillment from teaching stuff. Um, so I'm okay with it. That's a super long-winded of saying is at some level, I might talk about the really expensive stuff and the big production sets a bit less, but then also have a through line of videos and content that helps people that like might be getting something like the FX30 as a way of starting. And that's also where I lean on to you guys, where are there things that you guys don't know, like maybe you picked up a camera, you're thinking about it and you're not really sure where to go from the point of which you buy the camera to like what happens next. Are those things, right? So I want to open the conversation to that as well, and talking about being a little bit better, especially if I'm going to be an educator, being a little bit better at doing that job, but at the same time like keeping myself sane. Scott, what up? Love your stuff. Actually, I think I watched your video on some of the IRIX lenses that I might have one. They actually sent me the 21 and the 45. I'm going to review them over the next little bit. But I was just talking about the idea of doing more than just talking about the gigs that I'm working on, because you might not be able to take as much away from it, but also really narrowing and focusing on like helping people become what I think is the next generation of YouTube, right? Or the next generation of filmmakers. I think the next generation of a lot of people in video production and filmmaking are going to be folks that aren't just shooting video. They're not just editing video. They're not just telling visual stories. They're becoming self-driven media companies, because especially with things like the writer's strike and a recession that's either already started or that's coming up, you might need to be that, right? You might need to be the person that I could take photos pretty well, where I can work on those projects. I have a personal brand that literally is my marketing source for me to getting these projects to begin with. And then I'm also shooting these videos for these clients and making this content and helping them make money. So it helps me make money. And then overall, that feeds the projects that I want to do and the films that I want to make, right? And that's been my whole thing this entire time. But yeah, that's what we're talking about. So y'all leave your thoughts. I just started talking a bunch. If there's any questions, that would be really cool. So I shut up a little bit about talking about myself. So Edward Gilbert, the business side is the least talked about aspect of filmmaking content creation in general. I think the reason why is it's a little bit hard to do and have a ton of videos on it, because past the point of like, this is how you get clients, this is how you network, here's some of the package ideas, maybe this is how like you should think about charging. Like it's such a thing where like you could probably cover most of it in 10 videos, and then everything after that is like trial and error based on your situation, because there's so many different types of video. So for example, like music video and everything that's going to go into that is going to be drastically different than like corporate video, and then that's going to have drastically different workflow than like weddings or working in real estate. Like there's something and like Scott just said, like everything's so regional that it's so hard to be like, this is how you operate a business. And that's the hard part. So I think the only thing that most people can offer is like their own experience, because it would be too hard to try to do that for everybody. And then that person would like, say, for example, I've been in music videos for 10 years. I haven't, but that's what it is. If I've been in music videos for 10 years and someone's like, hey, but I really want to know about wedding filmmaking, like do I have to spend another 10 years doing wedding filmmaking so I could come from an experience and tell you how to structure weddings, right? I think that's where it kind of gets convoluted. But yeah, what is my opinion on the world of cinema right now? I honestly don't have a ton of problems with it. I think there's gonna be videos that are gonna, like movies I should say, that are gonna be like fun bad. Like I watched The Flash last night. That movie is awful, right? But it was one of those things where I still kind of had fun because it was fun to laugh at things. I do think that the superhero genre, as sad as I'm going to be about it, is going to take a little bit of a backseat to some of the movies that are coming out. I grew up on like comic books, I grew up on anime, I grew up on manga, so those things are things I really enjoy and I love seeing it on the screen. But I think there's so much of it that if you're not somebody who had read a lot of those storylines beforehand, it's hard to like really like it. Um, so I still think you're going to see them. I think you're just going to see less of it. But I don't know. I don't think cinema's in a bad place. I think there's more things now, and I think that kind of goes into the definition of what I think a filmmaker is. Is that in my eyes, it's anybody that's using video as a medium to get someone from point A to point B, which essentially is a story. And the reason why I kind of went with a more general approach in the way that that could fit in such a wide audience is because the way that we consume visual media is far wider than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, where it's not just I watch things on TV, I watch things on the silver screen. It's streaming platforms. It's watching podcasts that are basically talk shows now. There's watching different types of broadcasts. There's different types of movies. Short films are on YouTube and Vimeo. There's this big collection of where you could access video now that the term of a filmmaker or someone in video production or videographer also has to expand with the times. But in terms of the world of that, man, I think it's just fine. A little bit in a weird spot. We had a pandemic. I think it'll be okay and it'll course correct itself eventually. But also you have streaming platforms and stuff. Like there's other things that you could watch other than movies. So it's going to be all over the place. What's up, Poro? Go by Buck and you have help. I go by Buck and you've helped me a lot without even ever knowing me. That's super dope, man. I think that's really cool. It is really cool. I think one of the things that I love about this YouTube thing and like documenting everything and like also the place that I am in my filmmaking, like I'm not working on gigantic sets all the time. So I don't have that sense of like always having to think about those things. Like the time at which I started YouTube is like right around the time where I could help the most amount of people without feeling like I have to give a lot of things up. And that's been a really cool experience over the last like year and a half. So it's been fun. What's another thing I wanted to say? Do you think film/movies are becoming too generic and dark looking? It depends on what movies that in films and TV that you're watching. It's kind of like how YouTube, you'll get shown whatever you watch the most. I find people will gravitate to things that they watch the most. So if you're someone who likes dark and gritty movies, well then like subconsciously you'll see those things. And also if those movies do well, then like people will make more of those movies, right? So if like a super dark and gritty and moody type of style does well for a bit, then directors and producers and production companies and film houses are going to make more of them. That's just business. That's just how that works, right? And also like there's phases of movies, right? Like we had the superhero boom for the last 12 years, 12, 13 years. And now things are going to be based on like toys or video games or real life events. And you're going to see stuff like that. And I don't know, filmmaking at the end of the day, like I think we forget it's still a for-profit business. So people are going to use products over and over again that work. My package is on the way. Okay. Turns out I'm getting a package today. Been in LA doing major doc producing the last 8 years, and the scene is pretty bleak out there these days. It's a very transitional period in the industry. People are learning to adapt. That is exactly where I think the future of filmmaking might land itself, if I'm going to be completely honest. Or we were talking about this before, but like filmmakers aren't going to be just filmmakers. They're going to be media company owners. You're going to see myself probably, I'll have a podcast. I'll have a reaction channel. I'll have my filmmaking stuff on the side. I'll have my influencer stuff, my personal branding, photography. Like I think we're in the best position to create media companies that are based in video, whether it be personal or not personal. And I think what's going to end up happening is the film industry as it is, it's going to force the people that were like already going to be the LeBron Jameses in 5 years in terms of like the doc filmmaking world or the traditional filmmaking world, like those guys with that amount of hustle are going to be the people that are going to spin that into production companies and media companies that it's going to be multimedia. It's not going to be just let me shoot this documentary that's super hard hitting. It's going to be people with a variety of different ways of doing it. And because we spent so much time learning the basics and having access to the gear, I think it's a perfect time to even start getting your footing in that. And that's kind of the reason why I think starting in November, I made a list of videos, a list of potential brands I want to collaborate with, but I want to start a series of videos that starts people from the FX30, how to upgrade your camera, how to start doing videography here and there, how to leverage things like YouTube and your personal brand to take the financial pressures off actually getting the equipment that you need for the filmmaking jobs that you want to do. For a long time, I thought about like, oh, maybe I should sell everything because it's more grounded. But then I thought about it and I was like, dude, maybe, novel idea, encouraging using some of those things in order to make your life easier and going about a videography career, a filmmaking career. When I started, I kind of wish I did a lot more documenting, and this is just my opportunity to kind of respin the wheel and do that again. Because I think it's a way that you can teach the next generation. Because if I'm somebody that's like 22 years old and I'm picking up my camera for the first time, I feel like those people are more inclined to be like, hey, let me start documenting this in Instagram Reels or on YouTube or on TikTok or whatever the case is. And then people that might be a little bit older and a bit more seasoned might think of like, hey, man, I wish I did that before. I could probably help the guy starting coming up, and they're willing to either pay for it or there's a monetization structure that I can do. So now these jobs that might not be fulfilling, or maybe I don't have the capacity, yeah, I can make a YouTube video instead, right? Like that's the way, at least I've always thought about it. I've never really thought of myself as like the traditional filmmaker, the traditional DP. Like I've always thought about myself as you own a personal brand, you have a certain style of how you do things, you'll get jobs and work and things based on those things. Show other people how to do it and make a brand off of that. Man, that's super dope, Noah. I'm 22 years old, just got an FX30 2 days ago. This content is awesome. Thanks so much for the expertise and the advice. Yeah, man, that's something that that's things I'm really sorry. I spaced out for a sec. Those are the things that I'm really into. I'm like if I had never played like football at the university I went to and got a business degree, I would have taught third grade math. That was literally the second choice on my university applications. And knowing what I know about video production now and working in some of the spaces, like there's a lot of things that you could learn, even at the point where you're not shooting 40-person sets with $30,000, $50,000 budgets. Like there's a big middle. There's a big middle of the road that's at that 75%. People that are in small crews using minimal equipment, trying to figure things out. There's a big wealth of those people, and they might stay there forever. And it's really cool and super fulfilling to see like stuff like that where people are learning things even from somebody like myself who's I'm not going to shoot a gigantic campaign by myself that's going to look like it's on Netflix. If I do, cool, but it's not something I'm into. So seeing stuff like that helping people is great. If you can explain how you make connections with people in the community genuinely. I think the hard part is that there's no YouTube video for charisma and personality. I think a lot of my networking and how I meet people was knowing more about myself and how I communicate rather than watching videos on how to network, because I'll always watch those types of content and it always says like, go to your local chamber of commerce or send cold emails and make sure you go to events, and all those things are really good. But like once you go there, whatever comes out of your mouth or however you act is very specific to your unique style of communicating, right? And if you're unsure of that, you run the risk of not coming off the way that you want to some of these people. So even when you are in those rooms, you might meet somebody, say the wrong thing, or you might just turn the person off from wanting to work with you, right? Some things that I liked doing when I first started, and I was like, I had a lot of hustle spirit in me, was I would look up the vendors in certain trade expos and I would offer doing coverage for their booths. And I would send 200 emails. I would find every single email for every single vendor, and that's how I kind of got around things. And when I started, I kind of had network from just being in sports and being in fitness and stuff like that. So I would like reach out to all old college friends when I played ball, or I had an entire fitness industry that I had access to because I was competing at the time. So it was easier for me. So I think starting off where you're closest to is a great way to network. And then one thing I wish if I had started again is that every video that I did, I got some form of a testimonial and that went on my website. So then from 2019 till now, you get this laundry list of different people saying, this guy's awesome, this guy's great, I love his work so much, he's helped us out so much. And it kind of helps that social proof. Hey, Peter Lindgren's here. And so is Leo. That's dope. I agree. Folks like you, young comedians, people starting out in the trade, never document. I watch a podcast or a documentary series. Bottom to top. Yeah, I think that's it. I think there's. I think I wish I documented a lot more. I wish there was something where I paid more attention uh, to the very beginnings of things, but I think I was like a little bit too nervous to be wrong or be crappy at things. Now I lean into being shitty at stuff. I am the king of starting projects, getting 85% done and not finishing the other 15. And I just like lean into that, right? Like I lean into the idea of just being okay with not being 100% all the time, because most of the time you're 70%. And Patrick Tommaso actually said this. You're 60% in a lot of ways is somebody's 100, right? So I love seeing your post about the restart. I was thinking about making content in the gap that is not big sets or big companies, working mid-level, just 1 to 3 people teams. Yeah, man, honestly, Freethinker Studio, that's the majority of my work, man. Like, if you see me on these ad shoots, like, I sometimes don't bring a gaffer. It's like me, it's the client, there's a producer, I got 1 assist, and you're just doing the best you can. But those pieces of content have made people in businesses tons of money, right? And I think what ends up happening, I guess, in the more seasoned community of filmmakers as regards to YouTube, when they portray the gigs that they're on, it almost feels like that's all the time. And I guess it might just be me. It's not all of the time. I'm not always working on things where I need the red Komodo X, which calls into question because I live 15 minutes away from a rental house. Why would I own one and not just rent it out instead? But yeah, those are a ton of those things that happen all the time, man. Like a lot of the people that work in those small teams and they're working scrappy and they're on retainer clients making small form content, like that's the bulk of people. That's not a minority of people, right? And I want to speak to those because I have so much experience in those. What's your stance on free products? Interesting to hear. Here's my thing with free products. My whole thing, like I have way too many free products on me right now. I don't have a problem with it as long, like my whole thing is I'm a big fan of mutual beneficial agreements. So if, say for example, I need a set of lenses, and I needed a set of lenses when I got the Komodo X, and I was like, oh, you know what, like I want a couple lenses that I could use for everyday stuff, and like I don't have to worry too much about it. And at the time, and I can be honest about this, I don't have an NDA signed. Zongli reached out and they're like, hey, do you want to review these lenses? You can keep the set if you do the review. And I figured, I'm like, well, I used their 50mm before and I loved it. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that, and I'll shoot a bunch of stuff on it. I can do the review, and then that's $1,200 I don't have to spend on a lens. And in my eyes, the benefit to me is I don't have to go through the hassle of waiting for something to ship, ordering it, maybe finding out it's not something that I like, and then I get to keep that thing. Now, if the next set of lenses that get offered to you, I'm like, well, I don't have as much benefit from it now because I have what I need already. So I'm going to charge this one. I kind of look at it the same way as like if you're starting a videography business, for example, I'm going to skip this ad. I didn't know you could do that. If you are starting a videography business, you'll do spec projects, you'll work for free. Nobody ever calls into question why you would want to do that, because the benefit to you is that you have a portfolio of work that you can use to get more work later. Doing these lens reviews are kind of the same thing. Sometimes, and a lot of times, I've bought the lenses, I've bought all the other gear, and then I would review it for free of stuff that I purchased. And then that would be my my portfolio for when I am doing sponsorships and brand deals. Like, hey, you might want to give me this and give me a little bit of budget because this is what I can make with it, right? So I don't know. I don't have a big problem with free product as long as you have a plan for it, but I also don't think it should be a default setting for brands to ask of you. Ever had interest to test out the Leica M lenses for video? I used the Leica R's on the Canon C70 for a fashion gig I did last year. No, that was 2 years ago. Shoot. I like them. I like them a lot. I think the Leica R's are actually really, really, really nice. Actually, a lot of these vintage cinema lenses, as long as your lighting is on point, like they look amazing. They have a really unique look and you can get a lot out of them. I think the big thing and the best part about YouTube is that like I get to test everything so I know exactly what I'm going to get out of a certain set of lenses. So I could also decide like what look I want and what I want to pick, right? And also share that with you guys so you don't have to go through all that hassle making videos. When you film for a client and once it's posted, do you think you could have done better, or how do you overcome those thoughts and get better? Yeah, I actually, you know what? I think a lot of that also comes with accepting that. Let me think about this one. I played a lot of football, and with football, what ends up happening is that after every single game, you spend a couple hours actually watching back game film, and where you think you had a good performance, you get absolutely chewed out by the coach that's in front of you. The way that I look at a lot of my client gigs are kind of the same thing, where I'll pick apart what things I can do better, but I don't really look at it as a way of crapping on myself. I look at it more of like, hey man, you might want to put the light over here next time, or maybe you wanted to use this lens for this particular shoot for the next time, right? I think if you're not cringing at your old work, even if it's like in a small period of time, well, you're not doing it right. I think you're actually moving backwards, because if you can't acknowledge that there's things to improve, then it's very hard to improve. So if you do have those feelings, I think instead of beating yourself up about it, just look at like what you can do to make things better. Like look at the solution rather than the problem, and then just do that the next time. And if it takes you practicing, then practice, and then when you're ready for it, then you're ready for it. And if you're so busy that you don't have time to practice, well, then you're probably doing a lot of things right. So that's just my opinion. I have crazy good ethics statement I have on website that I go to from Tom Bach. I send every company that makes free products easy. I don't, that wasn't a question. Beside the starting from low end gear, if you were to start over YouTube, what's one thing you would do different? I think I would do videos just like these. I think I would do these live streams. Like I think I would check in like once a week to be like, hey, this is what I'm going through, or what are you guys going through, and how do we kind of help each other? I find what ends up happening, and also I think I would do a lot more collaborations with other creators that are around me. We talk about this filmmaking community and how it's so big and it's so awesome, but everybody sits at their desk and that's all we make videos from. We don't really interact with each other too much in public, at least in like videos. Like people will do collabs and stuff like that. I actually just saw Peter Lindgrens and Jason Morris, and me and Jason have a collab coming up next week, but we often don't do that front facingly, if that's a word. And that's something that I wish I did a little bit more, was collaborating with other people and also bringing other people with me as I was starting YouTube. And I find it's harder now because I have some level of success. Also, 1 second, my light turned off and someone's at my door. Okay, so it turns out I have a package at my house. Don't know where it's from, but yeah, there we go. I'm gonna reset now, and I'm 22 years old, bought an FX6, hired at Elon University as a director of creative video. I kind of wish I'd worked a little. Honestly, the underpaid like nonprofit stuff, I wouldn't necessarily beat yourself up about not getting paid a ton of money right out the gate. If anything, I hope you got some BTS, make YouTube content out of it, or make Instagram reels out of it. Like if you own the footage, as long as you have the rights to use it, spin that back into something else and turn that into something where you can make money from later. Working in the fitness industry, you don't get paid a lot. The only way you survive really is like you do a lot of volume of content. So the way that I did it was I would just spin that into a brand on how to actually create media and create videos and stuff like that. Because everything was so underpaid, I was able to do so much of it that now what's happening is like spinning it into like a YouTube channel. The kind of money you get from that helps bridge the gap between what you should have been paid had you done those projects, knowing a little bit more. I'm starting to post more of my stuff on Instagram, but does the YouTube help with getting more clients? Or would it be more to help others, but could meet other creators to collab with them in the future? I think it depends on the person, man. Like I've actually, the music video that I posted about the Komodo X, that was a job I got from a subscriber. So yeah, it does give you some work depending on what you're doing. I think it's something that I wouldn't necessarily count on. Like I wouldn't say, post things on YouTube because you're going to get more client work, unless your videos are geared towards getting more client work. Like you can make videos for whatever you want to make them from, and have an end goal in mind. So if you are a business and you want to get more clients, then you could structure your content to do that. But I have gotten jobs from that. Like I got the music video I talked about. I got 2 music videos actually from YouTube. The Gymshark campaign that I did a year and a bit back was another social media pickup. So there's a couple things here and there, but I wouldn't necessarily count on that as like a giant funnel and why you would use YouTube as a platform for it. Scott said, "Who is it?" But I don't know who you mean. I don't know if I'm not sure if I meant something I said, because if it is, I forgot already. So, do you ever bring your Komodo for personal stuff like holidays? No, actually, I'm going to Ghana, West Africa, in about December 20th, so about 2 months, and I'm heavily thinking of leaving it in Canada, mostly because I don't want to draw that much attention to myself, if I'm being honest. Like I might bring my FX30 and that's it. Or maybe just like a smaller camera, one camera lens package and stuff like that in general. And I'm going to be there for, about I'm going to go in 2 months for almost a month. So I think I'm going to bring a smaller package just because it's less risk. Maybe if I put it on the plane, it gets lost or someone chucks it, it flies out. Like anything that could risk that camera because it's expensive. I'm going to leave it at home, leave it in the rental house, and maybe it makes some money over the holidays. Maybe it doesn't, but at the very least, I'd rather leave the more expensive stuff in higher risk situations than bring it out just because I want to bring it out. That's true. Director's cuts are really valuable. Yeah, man. I think take some of that footage, man, and make your own content with it. Like whether you make a director's cut or whatever the case is, do whatever you want. Like a lot of things that I thought about when I was doing this fitness thing and I started talking about like the FX6 content and stuff is I was sitting on a gold mine because I had shot like 200 fitness projects in like a couple years. And I could talk about all of those. I could reference all of those in order to help you guys actually learn things. And then that spins off into its own personal brand that you kind of have lemon. So make lemonade. Oh, at the door. I think it's Amazon. I ordered two things. I ordered Velcro because I actually got these CRD bags. They're like organizer bags. I got a set of those for my Pelican case, and I'm gonna Velcro the big one to the lid instead of having to buy the lid organizer. And then I bought a heat gun because I'm gonna put a skin on the Komodo X. I'm sure that's what's in front of the door. I didn't actually open the door. I just kind of pressed the buzzer to let them in. If you have one cine lens to take with you on a shoot, which would it be? I would bring anything in 35 millimeter, to be honest with you. It's just that is a lens that is not too wide. It's not too close. I can move back. I can move forward. The compression to distortion is great. Most 35 lenses look really good in terms of just like a focal length in general. It would be a 35. So like a 35 in essentially anything, to be honest with you. What's your biggest filmmaking ability? What's your weakest filmmaking ability, and what are you doing to change it? Yo, I can't write for crap. I am the worst writer in the face of the planet. If you want me to DP something, great. I could do it. No problem. Set me up. I'm good. As long as I got the budget, I can make it happen. You want me to direct something? You want me to write a script? Nah, I can't do it. That's something I'm not good at. I'm really, really, really bad at it. I could speak well. I can't write out of a paper bag. So what I'm going to do, especially now, is I script my own YouTube videos. Like this has actually helped me become better at directing things because I have to formulate a piece of content in a way that people want to stay engaged and actually learn from. So like I actually have to better my writing skills. So that's something I'm really not good at. Like it's the one thing that I think is my weakest is definitely writing. You ignore my question. Andre, there is a lot of questions in here, and I ran out of the house for a second, so I missed it. Do you prefer flexible ISO or CineEye? I use CineEye 95% of the time, like a straight 95%, and I've been pretty okay for the last, when I get the FX6, like two years ago, and I had the FX3 before that. Yeah, I've had the Sony FX9 for like since they started dropping cameras, and I've used CineEye the entire time. When should I make the decision to go full-time videography and editor? I work 9 to 5 now. The only person that knows that is you, any significant other you live with, and whoever is managing your finances. I have no idea because my situation is different than yours. I went kind of all in very early, and I go all in very early on a lot of things, and that's mostly because like internally, I try to say this out hubris. I have a very particular work ethic where I will work incredibly hard in order to make something happen. And I haven't necessarily found a limit as to where that ceiling is. So my idea when I went full-time into freelancing was like, I got an extra 70 hours a week and I could probably do damage with 70 hours. And like with YouTube now, I don't have to take on client projects I don't want to take on. So I could post or create tons of videos on a regular basis. I could post 8 to 10 videos a month, do reels every day, live stream weekly, and I could do that and still not feel like I've hit like burnout or like the maximum capacity. So it's going to be different for everybody. I'm currently doing freelance video work for mainly weddings, and I'm planning to start my own interior architecture video work. Any tips on how to start all over again? Bro, I'm kind of in that same position. So I don't know if you guys know a lot about this, but like working in the, say, fitness industry, also my autofocus is off. Working in the fitness industry is a very far removed section of video production than everything else. Like the workflow between when I work on music videos or corporate video or fitness, they're so far removed that like leaving that that industry, it feels like you're starting everything over, which is kind of the reason why I want to start doing a series as if you're starting over again, is because it kind of feels that way at the same time, where you're not just the fitness shooter, you're also somebody that just kind of does everything. Yeah, man, I think that's a big one. It's, and the tips I would say is like take as many of the skills that you know, spec out the work you want to get hired for, and if you have the time, like if you're not busy with clients and you have the time to network and you have time to advertise, you have time to reach out. So use that time wisely and then exchange when you're busy for time you would have been looking for clients anyways. How much are you benching, bro? I'm going to be honest about this. The most I've ever benched was 435. I failed a 455 in 2022, I think in like February or something, and then I just stopped benching heavy after that. So I could bench a lot. I used to be able to squat a lot, but my lower back just said no, even if I stretch. I used to deadlift a lot, then I realized it's diminishing returns when you turn 30. So yeah, I could still bench a bunch, but the squat and deadlift, like I just keep it light enough that it does the job, man. What's your main camera right now? Depends. I mean, I have the FX30, and that's like my content camera that I use for everything. The Komodo X is sitting here, but I'm going to put it in a rental house for a bit unless I need it for a gig or something like that. And like, I don't know if I have a main camera per se, because I use so many different ones. Like this FX30 I use for YouTube all the time. The red Komodo X I'm going to use on a two documentaries that I'm shooting soon. The Sony Burano, we're shooting a short film with it next month, not even like 3 weeks from now. The Red Raptor I used recently on a couple projects. Like, I don't necessarily think I have a main camera for making content. That's the FX30. For everything else is whatever the job allows me to use. I think one thing you learn like in the like also the thing I learned about like the traditional filmmaking space is nobody has like a main camera unless you're your own production house entity. If you're someone that's like myself that just kind of takes jobs because I like YouTube's kind of the main thing at the moment, it's pretty much whatever you can get your hands on, and it's a lot of fun. How are you managing your books, and do you have a Link S Corp? So incorporation is different. It's a different word in Canada. Manage my books poorly. I get someone else to do it, to be honest with you. So I pay whatever amount of money it is to take that the farthest away from my hands as humanly possible. But getting things like QuickBooks is a great way to track your expenditures and stuff like that, and to make sure that everything is managed. But one of the things I realize is I'm not good at is taking care of those things, so I pay people to do it, like accountants and bookkeepers and stuff. So that's a little bit easier on myself, and so I don't screw it up. Any plans to go visit Bali here in Indonesia? Yo, I've never been to Asia in my life. Maybe one day. I don't really know, but maybe one day I'll go to Bali. I just don't have a reason for it yet. I started using the Sirui Nightwalker 24mm on my FX30, FS7, so I love that near 35mm focal length. Yeah, man, I think it's cool. I think it's a really dope focal length. 24 on like crop sensor cameras, 35 on full frame. You could never go wrong. That was my first lens, and like realistically, if I didn't have gear acquisition syndrome, I probably could do a lot of things on just that lens, especially with things like clear image zoom and shooting in 6K and punching in. You could do a lot. KX sounds interesting, but I've seen people saying the AF is still not there. True? No, the autofocus is there, but up until the firmware update that was literally yesterday, which puts a stick in my spoke because I just finished a Komodo X versus the FX6 video I'm recording right now. I just did the sponsor ad read for it. The autofocus works, and I've used it before. It's not great, but apparently they improved it literally yesterday in a firmware update, so I have to like reshoot that whole part. But from what it looks like, it looks pretty dope. And the face tracking was on the Red Raptor, and I've used that before, and it was like surprisingly good. It was like really snappy. It locked on decently. It wasn't like a Sony or Canon speed, but it was pretty good. Like it was very usable for things like talking head interviews and corporate stuff. Did you respond, bro? Okay, so I'm gonna put something out with some of the questions. I can't answer and read at the same time sometimes, and like it's hard for me to look at both. And sometimes, like when I'm talking kind of thing. If I don't get to a question, I may eventually get to it, but then also I don't have to answer every single question. Am I going to Ghana? Yes. Am I going to have meetups there? I don't know if I'm going to just yet. I haven't made that decision yet. There's a couple things in talks right now in terms of filming some stuff there. So the majority of it was supposed to be for a family trip, so I didn't really plan anything creatively. So if I do, then I'll leave it open to it, and you'll see it on Instagram or something like that, or on YouTube. But if not, I kind of want to just chill with my family and do that kind of stuff, because I find that I have a lot of access to myself on multiple platforms. Sometimes you just want to chill out. When you hit 30, everything gets a little tougher in the gym, at least for me, playing football and staying in the gym. Yeah, man. Once you hit 30, man, like it's just, you know what? Everything is harder because it's harder to recover. Like you could still have a lot of the same output. It's just that like if I have like a really big gym session or whatever, like I actually need those rest days. Where when like I was in like 5 years ago, I could come back in like half the time. I have to box at 7. It's 4 o'clock now. And when I do those workouts, like I need a day. Like I can't go to boxing, come back home, and then immediately like bounce back and be ready to go. Like I need to actually take a day to do stuff, which sucks, but like it is what it is, man. Are you open to work, or could I shadow you on a shoot? I have weird apprehensions around having job shadows, at least like in-person job shadows. One, most people are strangers to me, so it's kind of weird for me to kind of just be like, yeah, man, like stick behind me for an 8 hour period. So that is kind of a tough thing for me to do. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna kind of, and also like it's like an access thing. Like I get a lot of anxiety around giving myself or giving too much access to myself all the time. So like doing things like answering these chats or answering DMs and having AMAs twice a week, and then making videos, answering the comments on those videos, and answering Instagram comments. And sometimes people will give my phone number out and they'll text me stuff. Like it's almost too much that it's overwhelming. So like there's some things where I'm like, let me build and set up barriers for that. And I think sometimes that's a lot of the in-person stuff, unless I decide that I want to do like a meetup or a workshop in person. Everything else, I'm like, you already allow so much access to begin with that it would only make you more anxious if you do that one more thing. Because if I have one job shadow, then I have to have a bunch of job shadows, and it opens up a can of worms. Or like, I don't want that per se, if I'm being honest. But that's nothing personal. It's just generally for me, it's just, I feel like I'm too open to the point where it actually might be detrimental. Scott, I haven't used it just yet. Honestly, I thought it was on the Komodo X already. And then for this video that I was doing versus the FX6, I tried it. And then I realized that it didn't work. And I was like, oh, wait, what just happened? Did I screw this up? So I got to go back and I got to do it again. So I got to reshoot that entire part. And it's going to look funny because it'll just be like a cutaway in the middle of a video, but whatever. Any plans to work on any short films or documentaries? Yes. Am going to submit late to it, but I am entering the Mark Bone Art of Documentary one-day doc. I'm going to be a late registration. I don't think I'll be able to make it for the cutoff time. And the reason for that is because the day that I'm shooting it is on October 30th. I go to Montreal 2 days later for a client gig. And then when I come back for one day, and then I'm actually shooting a short film on the Sony Bravana with a couple of really cool creators that you guys have seen already. But we are going to be shooting that, and I'll be a cam op for it. And that's going to be from like the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10, fly home on the 11th. So like I come home like between Halloween and November 12th, like I'm not home. So it's really hard to be able to like do client work and then also edit a documentary in one go. So I'm not going to try to kill myself and do it. I'm still going to shoot it. I'm still going to edit it. I'm still going to post it. I'm also going to shoot on the Komodo X. But I'm not going to stress myself out trying to do it there, because the subject that I'm working with could only shoot on the 30th of October. So I'm not going to try to stretch it too much. In an alternate universe where videography is not an option, where would you be? I would be working at a bank, because I have a financial economics degree. Most people don't know that. I have a degree in financial economics and management. I was working at TD Canada Trust, which is a bank in Canada, and my whole family works there. My brother, who I live with, works there. My mom works there. My cousins work there, and I'm the only one that has the degree that's necessary to be what you call like a district VP. And I left, and they all hated it. So, in a separate world, in a different universe, I'm sure my parents would be a little bit more happy in the beginning of things. But you follow what you like, man. And I feel like I feel like I'm getting a lot more out of doing this than I am doing that. Any thoughts on the new DBZ anime coming? This guy knows. I think it'll be fun. I think it's gonna look amazing. Um, I think it's gonna be. I think this is like Toriyama's official apology for Dragon Ball GT, because that was a trash show, and I think he had very little to do with that. I don't think he had a big hand in GT, but I think this is kind of like, hey, let me like. It's a long enough time. It's been like, I don't know, like 19 years or something like that. But like, it's been a long enough time where like I could probably, rehash that whole Goku turning into a kid thing, and people won't hate me for it. So I think that's kind of what he's doing now. I make a living from weddings and I started a YouTube channel. YouTube brings in just a little, even though I spent a lot of time. Now I want to start commercial work or documentaries, but it feels like I'm starting something new every time I hit a roadblock. How do you decide if something isn't working, you need to move on? The same thing with how do you find out whether or not to leave your 9 to 5, right? Your wallet and yourself is going to be the only one that knows that, right? So one thing that I advise against doing, and I think I'm going to talk about this when I do start this whole, what's it called? This whole like kind of starting over series, is telling people that like whatever you're using to kind of gain the money that you need to, don't leave that in place of following a different type of department unless you have some sort of a safety net. Because what ends up happening is you might find that, right? Like you might find I'm going to leave a certain industry for another one, but then not necessarily have a plan. And you don't want to fly by the seat of your pants. It's incredibly stressful. I did that when I first started freelancing, and it wasn't the smartest decision. So you can always go back to weddings if you need to. And only like, the thing you could do is you could only do enough weddings that helps you support getting better at commercial production and documentaries. Docs, you typically, unless you're working with a brand and they have a big sponsorship behind it, it's hard to get paid from. Commercials, you obviously get paid from because they're earning money when you're doing it. But it's the same rules as ever. Like if you're going to if you're going to be somebody that is going to work on commercials, then spec those commercials out, reach out to the companies that you know are in charge or the in between, maybe go direct to client for a little bit, and you kind of do the same thing as you would if you were doing weddings, right? Across the board, when you're leaving one industry to the other, your easiest way to get back into it is to spec for the job that you're trying to get paid for, and then reach out to people that are either competitors of the job that you spec'd out for or that company itself, and then work your way from there. Any good movie recommendations on Netflix? Nah, not recently. Like I liked They Clone Tyrone. That was a really cool movie. I just finished watching Castlevania Nocturne, and from somebody that didn't play Castlevania, I thought it was a great show. People that played Castlevania, they hated it. So the One Piece live action's also surprisingly good. A lot of like live action from anime tends to not do well. One Piece is actually really, really good, and I think they renewed for a second season, so it's going to be a lot of fun. At this point in your career, I know you're out of commercials a bit more, but commercial work, was the increase mostly inbound or outbound? Almost all of the stuff that I got from like ads and working with companies were all inbound. But that's also because like at the time I had really, really cheap rent. So like I would just like when I tell you that I worked on free jobs with very not malicious intent, but I worked on jobs with a very specific intent. I went real hard the first like couple months, just so I had enough to be like, yeah, no, like I do this. And then when companies reached out, they're like, hey, like we're not sure, like have you worked on this before? I'm like, oh, have I? Well, I'll take a look at my Instagram account, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of value in doing spec work, even if it's stuff that's short too, right? Like I think that's something I'm going to teach also in this kind of like starting over series is like, man, when you work on 10 projects, like it doesn't have to be a full 3-minute video. Like it could be 1 minute, 45 seconds. You could work on Instagram reels. Like there's so many different, like I think one thing you want to not do is pigeonhole yourself in terms of what you can work on. Because you have a camera, because you know how to use it, there is thousands of things that you can do with it in order to make money. You can get a little bit from every which way. and it goes a long way. How do you ego check yourself when buying gear? Recently had this experience, and I wish I didn't need a second body, and it was very. Oh, I wish when I knew I didn't need a second body was very eye opening. Um, I don't really have like I don't know if is it an ego check or is it just you buy something and get open to new information and you make a different decision. Like I don't really have a thing where like I don't know. I think the community is, in regards to YouTube is very sensitive around the word gear. Um, they're just tools at the end of the day, right? And if you buy something and you don't want it anymore or it's no longer useful to you, chuck it, get rid of it. There doesn't need to be an introspection around buying a camera, whether or not to keep it or not. If you buy it, you realize you don't need it, you sell it, you lose a bit of money, you feel that little bit of a sting of losing a couple hundred or maybe $1,000 in buying something, and then you just don't make those decisions again. Like I don't think it needs to be something where you think so deeply about these tools because at the end of the day they're tools. Technology is going to advance. So I mean, like in terms of like how do you ego check yourself, it's like I don't worry about it, man. Like if I don't need the Komodo X anymore, I'm gonna sell it. I As much as people are gonna yell and scream and be like, "Why would you do that?" I'm gonna get rid of it because I don't care about the tool that much. It's interesting for me and it's valuable to me in terms of teaching and in terms of learning, but past that point, the thing in and of itself isn't important. It's not something where like, if someone said like, "Hey man, like you got to sell your Komodo tomorrow," okay, I like the stuff. The thing is though, is that what you can't rebuy or what you can't buy is how to use certain things, right? So and honestly, I toyed with the idea because the rental shop I live near, they're like, hey, we'll give you a really good deal on renting the stuff. And I'm like, well, then why the hell do I need to own it? Because I charge my clients when I use my Red system anyways. If I could take that money back, but then still have the exact same amount of usage, right? It makes for great YouTube content, but like I can also still just rent those things if I want to use it, right? And truthfully, I'm not at the point where like I'm using my Komodo package on gigs, multi-day gigs all the time, right? Like I bought it because I wanted to learn about it. I bought it because I didn't understand it. I bought it because when I'm working on my personal stuff, like that's what I want to use. But like I don't have any feel like if someone told me tomorrow that you got to chuck it, okay, right? So I wouldn't necessarily think you need to have an ego check. I think everything that you do in terms of buying gear, selling gear, using gear, all feeds into who you are going to become, and it's something that you just kind of do. That was also super long-winded of me explaining that. What are the best ways you found making connections to create spec work with others like models, writers, as well as work with creators? In terms of spec work, man, like you can make up anything. Like there's some jobs I've done where I just shot some stuff I thought would look cool, put some dialogue on it, like created a little bit of a story, and just threw a logo of a brand that I wanted and said like, "Yep, that's a commercial." And what's funny is that you could probably do that like multiple times, right? But I wouldn't get too. I wouldn't put too much stock into relying on other people when you're working on spec work. Like if there's something you want to spec out, you go 90 and have everybody else go 10, right? Like go through like because what ends up happening is when we want to work on spec projects, it's really hard to get other people involved if they're not getting paid for it. And rightfully so, right? Like models don't want to give up their whole day unless they're going to get paid for things. Same with writers, same with other creators and stuff like that. Like there needs to be that mutual benefit. And what the benefit to you is that like, well, I want to shoot spec stuff for my portfolio. Well, the benefit to them is almost nothing sometimes. So you have to kind of go with that in mind and create a situation where it's mutually beneficial for both of you to work on that project. And if it's not, then one of the things that you can do is just say like, hey, I'm going to take on the majority of the risk or the majority of the work. And you only have to come in for certain parts. I find collabs work really well with that. Whereas I've had collabs before where someone's like, I want to work on a project with you, but you have to figure out 60% of the work. And I'm like, well, that's not really a spec project for me. Like there's no benefit to me then at that point. So I would say if you want to do it that way, you got to go 80-90 and have the other person go the last 20 to make it easy, or save up your money and then just pay them to do the things that you need them to do. What items are you interested in buying? Audio, lighting, tripod, or whatever? None. Not buying, no. Renting, almost everything. I don't know what lenses we're going to actually. I think I do know what lenses we're going to use for the short film next month. But those are things I'm interested in trying. And like, what's weird is being in this filmmaking space on YouTube. Being in this filmmaking space on YouTube, what's fun is that you get to try everything after a certain point. Like, there isn't a company that I can't reach out to that won't let me borrow something for a project for free. And that might sound like, oh, it must be nice. And I'm like, yes, but I also worked my bag off to be able to get to that point. But anyways, there's a certain aspect of like you get to kind of give everything a shot, where after that, and even sometimes things are given to you for free, where then after that almost nothing becomes something you get hyped up on. You're like, that would be interesting to give a shot, cool, but there's nothing that like I'm constantly researching that's like I really want to know more about this thing. I find a lot of the camera releases this year, like since the FX30, there's nothing that has like turned my eye in terms of a camera that I'd be interested in trying out. Lenses, I just want to try lenses because I just want to see what they look like when you do things with them. Audio, I'm pretty good with audio. Like if I get a good lav mic, a good shotgun, I got a Zoom recorder. Like if it sounds good, I don't care that much. The Rode Wireless Go 2 is great, but like I didn't have 32-bit float up until now. It doesn't make a difference to me that whether I have it or not. I just make sure my levels are good. So there isn't anything that like I'm super like hankering for really, but I think that's also because I get a chance to kind of try everything. Shappy Wappy, what up? What is your current camera bag's favorite? Whoa, hang on. What's your current camera bag favorite or traveling everyday stuff? It's in my hand. It's like it's filming the thing here. I use the FX30 and the 13mm Viltrox for like everything. I've used it for pretty much everything since I got it, really, and it takes pretty decent photos. I actually think I'm going to use it as more like a street shooter camera instead of buying a new camera in general. And then I just got this Sony ECMB mic that goes on it as well. So like when I have my YouTube setup where I want to like get a quick clip or whatever, I don't have to set up a bunch of audio stuff. I can just throw that on there. There's no wires. I can get what I need. That's been my big travel thing. And I find that like when I'm traveling and like I want to shoot videos and stuff or whatever, having one camera, one lens is super nice because you only have to worry about the one thing and you could also fit other stuff in your bag. Does it make sense having cinema lenses or should you rent them and just keep autofocus lenses? It depends, man. Like here's the thing. There's some people that don't live near rental houses. I know in Canada, we don't have things like ShareGrid. We don't have lens rentals. We don't have like online rental services. And not every rental house has lenses that are on the budget side. So like, for example, like these IRIX lenses, there would be nowhere I could actually rent them from because nobody has them in terms of the rental houses. Like most people will go with like whatever's the most popular of the brands because rental houses need to make money. So like it is kind of hard to own lenses that aren't part of like the mainstream. But yeah. Yeah, plus no one has Elma. Yeah, that's the thing too, right? Like there's certain lenses where like depending on the amount of camera you have, like you just kind of have to buy them because either nobody else has them or rental shops won't rent them out to you. And like, yeah, if you're in a country where you're not near a rental house or you don't have one of those services, like there's nothing you can do, right? Like you kind of have to own them for a bit. So in situation, and that's again, this is like it's all revolving. And this live stream really makes me think about like I could just sell the Red Komodo X and rent it because at the end of the day, like in terms of like how much I use it, like it doesn't make you less of somebody that knows how to use it when you rent it as often as you were using it anyways. But yeah, there's a lot of things I think depending on your proximity and depending on where you are, where you can just rent a lot of the stuff, right? So how long have we been going on this thing for? I've been in it for a minute. Oh, I've been almost a whole hour. I've been straight talking for a whole hour. I might stay on for a little bit more. I'm going to eat food in a second. And then I got to go and punch things, which will be fun. Did I answer every single question? I think that is the question of the day. I can't tell because no one threw down them super chats. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But yeah, so kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of this whole like starting over series is not necessarily to invalidate everything that I've done before, but essentially to kind of go back and speak more at eye level. Because with YouTube, and I'll kind of tell you this, and everybody tells you this, is you're doing one of two things. You're either entertaining or you're educating. Now, I try to be entertaining, but I think I'm more on the educational side of things. But one thing I found with a lot of the educational content in this space is I feel like people are talking downward at you and they're like, hey, like this is what you need to do in order to be a filmmaker. It's like, oh, that's cool. You have a $8,000 setup, so like it's kind of hard for me to understand that, right? Or it just feels discouraging to some level, where I'm like, you know what, things are in the right place now where I can take a couple steps back and I could really teach on those things. I might not go fully into the struggle bus because I feel like I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again just to make people feel better. But there's certain things that if I had the information that I have now on a kit that I would have probably started at when I started, like how would I go about those things? So, and I've already made like a list of I think like 20 something videos about like how I would do certain things. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. What did you do when you were in a creative rut or not knowing what next to create that's not gear related? I just stopped making stuff, to be honest. I'm very much a person where like if I'm like I don't feel like doing this, I just stop doing it. And I just come back when I'm ready. I don't know. Like I don't know. There's something about like I've developed a very chill mindset around creating content. My biggest like source of the bane of my existence. I don't know what else to call it, but the biggest thing that like I've always had problems with is like how much access to myself do I give the general public, and that's something that I've always kind of struggled with because as much as you want to help people, the general population or the general public has no semblance of where your boundaries are. So that's something that I have a lot harder of a time dealing with. I don't really have a hard time with like not making content if I think I have nothing to say. But also a lot of the gear, like a lot of the videos I have, it talks about gear, but it's in the context of me creating. So I think they both depend on each other. And that's why like I still need to freelance. I still need to do those things because then I don't really have the content that I want to put out if I'm not still shooting stuff. So if all my jobs kind of up and disappeared, then this channel would also disappear because I can't teach you, I can't make educational content about video production or filmmaking if I'm not doing it, if that makes any sense. I'm just reading a lot of these things here. Before you start shooting something, what's your thought process before ending the project? Lens choice, shot list, theme. Do you have any tips on building a story? Yo, use Milanote, man. I mean, a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people will like rant and rave about Milanote, but it does go a long way to have some sort of way of organizing your thoughts, even if it's something that's like not super fleshed out. I find some people might not want to use like a Milanote or an Evernote or anything like that because their structure doesn't look like some of the creators I see on the internet. But I think that's not the point. The whole point of like story structure and making sure that things are there is like, do you just know what you're doing at like the base level? You'll get better at doing that, and like I'm still getting better at doing that, but like at the very basics of things, are you good at saying this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it? um but yeah, you put all those things down, right? Like having the lenses that you want to use because there's a certain look that you want, having the scenes that you want to do and like how you want to do each scene and like where it makes the most amount of sense. Even when you're doing like commercial stuff too, right? Like I'll sometimes keep a list of like what gear I want to bring for certain types of ad shoots that I have to do, even though they're like super easy to do, and make sure I have a plan in terms of the lighting and like where am I going to put the script if it's a teleprompter shoot, like those kind of things are just have some sort of a plan. In terms of tips is telling a story, you'll have a beginning, middle, and an end, and let your personal style do the rest, right? Like every story is going to have a beginning, a middle, and end. A character is going to want something. The basics of story structure are always going to be there, and I feel like there doesn't necessarily need to be a ton of videos on that. Um, but I guess there should be more videos on the execution of that because knowing a story, we learn story structure and how that happens in grade school. It's just how do you execute what you want out of that structure? I think that's a little bit more important. How well do you trust NATO rails? Also, is it safe to mount handles or QR plates directly onto rods with a rod clamp? Um, I actually don't know what a QR plate is, to be honest with you. How well do you trust NATO rails? I use NATO rails all the time. So I don't think there's not like a 10-point scale on like how much I'll trust a NATO rail, but like I use them and they're pretty decent. They're a lot of fun. It makes it easier to take things on and off, so that's always great. Um, QR plates. Quick release plates on a rock clamp. Is it safe to mount handles or quick release plates directly onto rods with the rock clamp? You can. I mean, like I've not had problems. I don't think I've had a lot of like rig disasters, so I can't say I've ever had an issue with actually doing it. So I mean, like by all means, give it a try and see how it is. What is the ideal recovery action for us videographers when things didn't go as planned? Say unusable audio or file corrupted video. You're not gonna like this part. Either reshoot it or give the person's money back. Like, if the contractual obligation is you have to produce a video, and something happens where you can't produce that video, then the thing that they gave you in exchange to produce that video has to go back to that person. So first thing you would do is obviously like apologize, try your best to fix it. If you have to reshoot it, reshoot it. If you have to unfortunately give a refund on something like that, you got to give a refund on something like that. Like giving the refund instead of fighting it is far, 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 far better of a decision than try to fight to keep the money, but then also not give the client the product that they're looking for. So yeah, I would say either try to redo it or unfortunately you gotta kind of hold the L. You're welcome, Peter. There's an accent on Peter, so I don't know if I said like is it just pronounced Peter regularly? Was it Petter or Pet? I don't know. I'm gonna get it wrong if I keep trying it, so I'm gonna stop. What if it's an event that's very important, concert one time only? Pray. I don't know. Kind of the same rules apply. That's super stressful. I am very sorry to anybody that has that happen to them, but in a scenario where you have an event that's incredibly important and something screws up, I would try to edit what you can. Make sure you're like tell your client early. Like don't wait and like give them the final edit and be like, here it is. And like, well, what's wrong with the audio? It's like, oh, there wasn't any. Tell them and then give them a solution to how you can make it right. Because yeah, well, you'll run the risk of some very not fun things happening. So if it is an important one-time thing, do what you can. But the same rules still apply. Either you like if the reshooting part, I guess, is out of the question, then you might have to just send a refund if it's unusable. Just found you a couple days ago. Really helped you decide on which cine lens works best for me. Keep up the great work. It's hustle. Thank you, man. Yeah, this whole YouTube filmmaking thing is super hard. It's really hard to kind of balance both of them because sometimes you want to work on gigs and sometimes you want to make a YouTube video. And I'm finding a lot more often want to make a YouTube video. So I'm glad that at least helps people when I do make them. I hope you don't mind my random. Honestly, I don't mind random questions. I've been here for an hour and 10 minutes answering random questions. So that's totally fine, man. I don't have any issues at all. The biggest thing I'm taking away from this is to not be so attached to gear. I feel like we're in the time where ads and gear and commercial really blind us from understanding the actual components of creating. Yes, absolutely, Justin. I think I like, and I mean, I guess on some level, creators like myself make that a little bit harder. But then on the flip side, if we didn't make these videos talking about our experiences with the camera gear that we do use, you might actually spend more money trying to find the perfect thing for you. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But yeah, I think there's definitely a space where research as much gear as you possibly can, use as much as you possibly can, but like literally look at them like they're inanimate objects. They don't have feelings. Like my red Komodo X isn't gonna cry if I sell it. The FX30 isn't gonna cry when I sell it. They're just tools for a particular job. And if that's the case, then like use them for what they are and then chuck them and move to the next thing when you've made your money, man. Like, I don't know. I like, as much as I have interest in using camera gear, as much as I have interest in testing new things in different scenarios, at the end of the day, if everything that I ever had was only borrowed and I had to give it back, I'm like, you can't take away the experience of learning how to use those things. And that I find that's what I find that's more important than having the thing, is knowing how to use the thing. And the only way you might know how to use a thing sometimes is having it for a little bit or getting it on a exchange or doing content with it, whatever the case is. Also love your work and videos. Thank you, Jordan. I think I'm trying my best to do a good job, man. Like I'm trying my best to actually start doing some more and posting more of my actual work on the platform. I've been doing a lot of client stuff in between doing YouTube videos, so it's hard to make my own things. I've actually made a lot less of my own personal stuff this year than I have when I was freelancing, which I kind of think is a problem that I got to figure out. So, um, what's your lens of choice for detail shots? Maybe a budget option. Honestly, anything between like 50 and 75 with a decent close focusing distance is probably going to be okay for like most, especially if you're doing it on a budget and you're not too particular about the minutia of the image. Anything between like 50 and 75, you'll be fine. Yo, quick check-in, but big up yourself. Love your work. Thank you. Yeah, same thing I kind of said before. It's really cool. People have been sticking this live stream for like an hour and 10 minutes. But it is cool, like answering questions and also like finding time to work on my own thing and merging the two things together. Oliver, you're tearing, and I don't know why. I'm not sure how to help you. If there is, I know. I'm gonna put it down below. I really love the BTS content as well. Really get to see what goes into paid professional shoot. Yeah, man. One thing I would say is that if someone's trying to start off into YouTube or you want to get into those spaces, learn how to use your camera really well. For BTS, man, like there are people that I know that are making a killing just doing BTS for other people. It's a lot of work, but like you go in, you shoot behind the scenes content. Oftentimes you give them the footage, you don't have to edit, you go back home and then you got your money, right? Like, so that was one thing that I did a lot of when I was starting out. I was like, yeah, I just got BTS of everything. And I was getting a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here. And then I use that to flip up into the camera I wanted or to pay for a project or pay for studios for things that I wanted. You can get a really far away with shooting BTS footage. I also realized that like you could put ads on your live streams. I turned all of them off and I've been turning them off as it's been going. So yeah, put a one in the chat if for not actually putting commercials in your face while I'm talking. There we go. I'm still here. Cheers from Costa Rica. Really enjoy your workflow and clarity to explain. Thank you. Just crying over the thought of selling my camera. It might not cry, but I will. Yo, it's okay, man. Oliver, I'm gonna tell you, like, I'll tell you as clear as day. With the amount of technology coming out, it's so hard for me to feel bad or miss a camera when I sell one because a new one comes out. I'm like, I could screw with that one for a little bit. Like it's super hard, man. Like technology is coming out so friggin' quickly that it's hard for me to like to miss any camera when I do get rid of it, or if I do get rid of it. So I should say. Hey, love your videos. Currently film school. I bought the FX30 after watching a review. I'm looking at getting the Atomos Ninja 5 Plus for the monitor. Is there anything you suggest? I would say like if you're not going to use a ProRes RAW, then maybe just get the Atomos Shinobi or a different monitor that might be cheaper. Because if you're not going to use the ProRes RAW often, because it does require you, especially if you're using a DaVinci Resolve, you have to buy a separate license to actually use it and convert it to Cinema DNG, then edit it. You'll get a little bit of image quality out of it, but it's not life-changing. So if you're balling on a budget, then I would say maybe just get another monitor with the same specifications and maybe not the external RAW. If money's no option, go for it. What do you think about Tamron lenses, in particular the new versions? Here's one thing about my channel that I don't actively say very often, but if I've never used the thing, I generally don't have an opinion on it, mostly because I don't want to be wrong, or I don't want to have an opinion based on, like, I like having opinions based on like actual experience. Tamron has not reached out to let me try them yet, so if they do, awesome. But I don't know if they will, so it is what it is. Or even killing it since NAB, your inspiration. Hey, thank you, Paul. NAB was actually like a TSN turning point because I think I think I was like just at 10,000 subscribers at that point, and that was like not that long ago. But I got to meet a lot of people, got to see how like they work, and got to be like be in certain spaces of certain things. And it was the first time I had met a lot of other creators outside of like Mark Bone is the only creator that I knew personally up until that point. So it was really cool actually to meet everybody, and it's been cool and to kind of take things farther as I've been going. I'm planning a short film. Do you have any advice? Ask somebody that's more experienced in short films because I'm not. I'm actually doing my first one myself. I've done short docs. I've done some like doc projects for different brands that I've worked with. Short films I've not done a ton of. There might be people that are more educated on the topic than I am. So I would say you might want to look at that because I might not be able to give you exactly what you're looking for. But do a lot of research on YouTube. I don't know. That seems like a really good place to start. That might sound sarcastic, but it is a really good place to start. Hey, love your stuff, brother. What are your views on the Sony A7 IV and a filmmaker? I'm trying to get one that suits me, video and photo both, also same price range. What would you suggest? I can only speak on cameras that I've used before. I've used the A7 IV for a while. I had it for a bit. My only issue with the A7 IV is the overheating thing. That's pretty much it. And some people don't have that experience where it's overheated on them. Mine has happened, I want to say 6 times in the year that I had it. It overheated about like 6 times in the year that I had it. So I'm like, I'm gonna get rid of this. If you're a $30,000-ish range, I don't know how much. I think that's Canadian. I don't know how much that's American. I think it's 2,500. The Panasonic S5X I think is around that price. The FX30 is around that price. The Fuji XS2, whatever that is, the Fuji camera that is in that price range. Any one of those are fine. I've only really used the FX30, and I'm sitting beside a Panasonic S5H Mark II. So both are fine. Both are great. So you'll be happy with any. Realistically, anything out of like after 2020, you're pretty much going to be fine with any camera you use. Sony FX30. Honestly, like, and again, like I just read the FX30 A7 IV. I did a video comparing the two of them. Truthfully, if you can get past the overheating, either one of them's fine. Like, it'll be, truthfully, at the end of the day, when you look back at your footage, look back at your projects and everything, you'll be happy with which way you go. Kofi, how are you? What do you use to quote jobs? What do you use to quote jobs? I still struggle every day with pricing for clients. I just use QuickBooks. It has a quote thing. If you want to know like the actual program that I use to like send to people. With jobs, I find that I went more the retainer route over the last little bit. So I've been working a lot more with retainer clients for a lot of it. I pretty much will make up a day rate for what I need, and then anything else that's extra, like I charge on top of that, and then I charge a little bit, like if I have to get studios, and I'll charge like 10% for me to go find the studio or whatever. Or if I have to find crew, then like I like put little things in there to make sure that it happens. But like line items are the best because it's easier for people to see, and then when they want to spend less money, you make it their idea of what they have to take away in order to get there. So what do you think about the 4K quality of the A7S III? 2. I've actually never used one. So good. I don't know. I am not entirely sure. I've actually not used the A7S II. I had the A7 III, and then I went to Canon after a little bit. So I actually, if it looks good to you, then it looks good. There's nothing I can tell you that's going to change what you think about a camera. FX3 unless you, I honestly, so part of this beginner series is I want to demonstrate how to do enough work on the FX30 where you could flip it into an FX3. Because I think what I want to do is I want to take the whole like Ryan Trahan turning a penny into a plane ticket back to the United States. I want to see if I could take a Sony FX30 to like an Arri Alexa and how long that would take, but under the confines of like working on different jobs with that system and like consistently trading yourself up. What do you suggest for your storage footage, storing it on SSD hard drives? I will use all three. So I'll use SSDs for stuff to edit off of. I'll store things on a RAID system, which I kind of want to do a video about, but I also feel really weird about unplugging it from my wall. But I'll use like a RAID system to archive, and then I'll use cloud just in case if I have the space for it. Prime lenses or zoom, and what's the best prime for Sony? Yo, I don't know what the best prime lens for Sony is. I just know that the best lens is the one that you need, depending on the job that you have. So typically newer is going to have improved technology, but like is a 24 to 70 the best? Don't know. Is a 50? Don't know. It kind of depends on the person. Tell us what your time with Canon. Oh yeah, so the day before lockdown, I'll tell you a really quick story. Day before lockdown, the headphone jack, the audio jack out of my A7 III and my Sony A7R III both broke at the same time. So I brought it in to get it fixed, not realizing the lockdown was the very next day. And then me just being weary about like Sony A7 III version cameras breaking down all the time, they ended up losing the camera. So I actually got basically a store credit to go buy new cameras. And my fear of having that happen again, I ended up picking the Canon EOS R because I ended up buying the Blackmagic 4K around that time, and it only used Canon glass and used it on a speed booster. So then like I had to use Canon glass. So it made sense to have the Canon EOS R. And then I went from the EOS, or sorry, the Blackmagic 4K, went up to the C200 in the USR, and then eventually got the R5. And then I went from the Canon C200 to the C70 because I got the C200 the day the C70 released. Found out I hated the C70, got the FX3, and now we're in the FX line of stuff. And then I also sold my Canon R5 and I got a Sony photography camera instead. Here, a good short film is creative use of lighting. You don't need 9-10 softboxes. Use lamps you have. Yeah, man, you can make a really good short film on very minimal lighting, or like not having to add a ton of stuff. Especially like with short films, like a lot of it's going to be dialogue based. Like you could set up scenes to go in between, but like if you could set up really good dialogue scenes and to progress the story, you're doing well, man. I really wish I went with the Polar Pro ND filter. I went with a cheaper option, a K&F, but the ND filter is stuck to a promise. Oh, that sucks. There's a thing you can do for that. If you ever see those like bands or like those rubber bands, you can get like those exercise bands. Apparently, if you wrap it around your filter a certain way and you twist the rubber band part, you could actually get that off your filter. Why don't people use the FX30 with a speed booster rather than it? Oh, FX30 with a speed booster. Um, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I can't really speak for other people. I think they just want to use it that way. Also, I guess if you're gonna use like 4K 120, that cropped 4K 120 is not great. So I'm assuming people don't necessarily want to go that route for that reason. I actually don't know. Also, I guess like the 12,800 ISO and that kind of thing, that might, like, there's other things outside of just the straight up sensor size that people don't want to use. I guess the FX3 versus the 30. But yeah, I'm sure there's other reasons as well. Also, I think from what I understand, someone commented on the video about it, but like the ProRes RAW on the FX30 actually crops in a bunch. So if you don't want to deal with that, then you could use the FX3 exact as well. So trying to think. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys another maybe 20 minutes, but I do have to get a phone charger. I wonder if I could can I put like a commercial on? Is that a thing? I don't think I can. One last question from me. I think, LOL. What was the aha moment when you knew 8-bit wasn't enough? Color grading. It wasn't so much that 8-bit wasn't enough. It's that fact that I tried a higher bit rate. I'm like, this is it. So I don't think there's ever a time where I'm like, 8-bit sucks. Like most people, when you're dealing with the camera that you have in a vacuum, don't realize whether it's good or bad. So when you're using it, you kind of don't care. But it's when you get to use like 16-bit RAW or 10-bit or 12-bit, and you're like, something about this is really nice, and I don't know what it is, but I like it enough that I think I want to do this from now on. That's kind of my feelings about 10-bit. Do you know why some cine lenses are super cheap, like the Zhongzi S35 kit, the Sirui Nightwalkers? What are the image quality differences? Generally speaking, I think cine lenses are going to be cheaper because either they use cheaper materials, cheaper glasses, cheaper coatings, and there's always something you like kind of give up when you buy cheaper lenses, which I mean is fine for most people. I think the image quality isn't so bad that you're going to be like, I'm never going to use this again. That would be unrealistic. But the Sureis and the Zhongyi lenses, their 20 and 24 millimeters are weird because they don't match the rest of the set. So if you have a 20 millimeter Zhongyi lens or a 24 Sirui Nightwalker, both of which are a little bit warmer than the other two lenses in that kit, which is super weird. But it is what it is. I mean, like that's one of the things that you kind of give up. But like when I've been using it, it feels fine. Like they're sturdy. They produce a decent enough image that like I've taken them on client gigs and not noticed a bunch. Francesco, what up? I have the FX30 in my cart. Sorry, can't afford the FX3. Hey, yo, that's a common thing for a lot of people, man. I might let you guys in like on a secret because I want to talk about the series. I also want to know if this is a good idea or not. But one of the things that I wanted to do in terms of getting the FX3 to do this whole like starting over thing again was I was going to take my FX30, work on a couple of jobs and like kind of say, well, this is how much it's going to cost for this camera. But then I can go to the rental shop and see how much it is to cost, like to rent it out per month. And do two things. One, I wanted to do like a barter of services, and like I'll make content for the rental house as long as I could kind of decrease the price of the rental for the FX3. And then during that time that I have the FX3, like batch shoot my butt off in order to pay not only the rental fees but for the FX3 in general. And then you basically have a free upgrade because you got to use the camera and then add the price of that rental into your client projects and then like scale your way up to buy the camera back to begin with. Don't know if that's a super smart idea, but it's something I thought about, which was really cool. Just made my LEDs for video. What's the best way and platform to sell them? I use Squarespace. Honestly, I put everything on my Squarespace website. I actually not really good at promoting my own digital products. I think that's one of like the weaker YouTube things that I'm at. Like I'll just kind of use selling my LEDs as like a throwaway line. I should get better at not only making more digital products but also promoting them. They will buy an FX3 off of shooting a few weddings. Honestly, yeah, like if you have an FX30, upgrading to an FX3 after you've worked with it a little bit is incredibly easy to do. Like one of the things that I did when I started was like I flipped cameras like crazy. Like I had the A6000, did a couple jobs, got the A6300, did a couple jobs, got the A7 III, and I just like kept doing like finding out how much the camera I bought was, how much I could sell it for, and like how many jobs divided by my rate that I have to do to get the next thing. But I was also still working part-time or working like a 9 to 5. So I recommend doing that. I recommend like keeping the day job that you have and then just constantly flipping up your equipment because you already have your bills paid. So all that money you could just use to reinvest. Ooh, the S5X got the Blackmagic of an order. I actually love it. I want to know what that the new Blackmagic is like. I haven't really used it. I haven't really had much interest in it, to be honest, too. So I haven't used it that much. My dog chewed my Zoom rocker and all my. You might have to have a talk with your dog. I don't know about that, SJ. Give me one sec. I gotta get my laptop charger because I got like 8% left. This thing's gonna die on stream, but I still got 15 minutes. So 1 second. Oh. All right, I've returned. Maybe will my laptop charge? We'll find out in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. That's how I got the FX30, by doing jobs in the ZVE10, and then clients don't even know the difference between the footage most of the time. Yeah, like clients just know when things are good or when things are like not good, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think that's like flipping your camera up. My light's going crazy. Flipping your camera up is the easiest way to get more expensive gear that you want to get. Also, like certain clients will know, certain clients won't. And if you're doing client stuff, like as long as you're making the money, they don't care. I went to my local camera store and the guys pranked me. The 6K full frame and lied. It didn't. Yo, they made you drive all the way to the store to find out that the camera's not in. That's kind of ruthless. I'm not going to lie to you. That means they should give you a discount when you actually pick it up. Anyone using the Samyang Cine V AF lenses? Not myself. I have the FX3 and my daughter is starting to shoot with me, mostly photo, but some video with the FX30 for her to start focusing more. No, I'd probably get like an A7 IV or something else that's a little bit more photo dedicated than the FX30 or the A6700. I mean, it has a couple more photo capabilities. The image quality isn't different, but it does have some things that make it easier. Can't wait for the content of camera flipping. Yo, honestly, it's actually going to be so much fun. Like this is something that like was my wheelhouse back in the day, where I had the A6700 in like January. I had the A6000, and by the end of the year, I bought a brand new iMac, had an A7 III, had an A7R III. I had multiple lenses. I had a drone at one point. Like it was a pretty hectic hustle. It'll be hard for me to do again without using YouTube, and I think to be fair, I think I might just use that as part of that hustle, because technically, in my eyes, I think people should, if you want to take a little bit of financial burden off of client work and you think of yourself as a media company, you should probably have things like YouTube and socials that you're leveraging. So I'm going to try to figure out some sort of way to do that in a way that makes sense in order to do that same flip again. Because I really want to see if I can do it up into like an Arri Alexa 35. It might take me like 18 months, maybe like a year and a half if I'm really, really going. But I want to see if I can. No, I actually give my clients the files to edit most of the time. I've taken the whole editing and post-production process off my hands so I could focus on other things, because the amount of money that I would have made from editing some client projects, I could be better spent doing other things. So I'd rather just charge less and not take on that stress and that risk and give it to them and they can figure it out themselves. That also happens when, like, if you are a lot more expensive, it's a lot easier to do that. So say, for example, if like your clients are like, oh, we don't have a budget for like I don't know, throwing a number out of the wind. But if someone's like, hey, $3,000 is too much money for you to do this project, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let me meet you at 2,000, but like you do the editing and I'll do everything else. Right? That's a good way that you just have to go in, you do your job, and you leave. Yes. Francesco asks a good question. He's like, I'm just starting. Do you think focusing on being of service on YouTube is a great way to grow as a creator? Absolutely, because when think about the nature of what people are looking for. Like, we just spent, I don't know, like an hour and a half talking. Most of them was me answering questions. So that should be enough evidence that like there are people that don't know things that you know, that you can help them with knowing. And that might be how to set up lighting. That might be how to expose properly on your camera. That might be, does this piece of camera gear work for you? Does it be, what is this camera gear like? Does it like whatever the case might be? There are people that need to know how to do that. And there's a platform where you can post for free, and over time, based on your output, based on presentation, based on factors that like you can get better at but you don't have a ton of control over, can at some point at a future date pay you enough that it rivals what your day rate would have been freelancing on projects you may or may not like. So my big thing for that is, like, if you have the capacity to do it, I don't think everybody in filmmaking should get a YouTube channel, because some people aren't going to be good teachers. But if you have the capacity for it and you think you want to give it a shot and you want to try another lane in terms of earning income, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's actually a really good thing and a really cool thing to start doing. Oop, wrong tab. There you go. Yeah, let me Francesco, what's it called? Tag me in it. Tag me in it, so because I won't be able to see it unless you tag me in it. Mostly because like I sometimes like I don't get notifications for DMs most of the time, so like I won't see a lot of things. But just, yeah, throw me a tag and I should be able to see it. Um, the FX3 for photography, I mean, like, you could take photos on anything. It's just like whether or not, it depends on where you use cases for it, right? I think the FX3 only has like 12 megapixel photos, if I believe. So I mean, like, if you have an application where 12 megapixel photos are fine, do that. And that's where it would compete, right? But if you're shooting things that are getting blown up on billboards and stuff like that, like, I think Daniel Schiffer or Chris Howe did a video where he actually got people to try to guess the print side, like the print, and stuff like that. And some people got it wrong. A lot of people got it wrong, actually. So like, probably, but I'm not going to be the first person to tell you that you go and use a cinema camera to go and shoot photos with, other than just getting a photo camera instead. Got a crisp $20 bill for your Komodo X if you sell it. I don't think I'm gonna sell it, man. Like, I'm still half and half, because like a lot of it, I'm still gonna use it a ton, and it's just whether or not I'm gonna use it a ton by renting it from a rental shop that like I have a good relationship with, so I can get it at a good deal, or is it something that I'm going to own? Right? I'm just gonna use it. I'm still gonna use it a ton. Like, I feel like the uses of which me making content on it and actually using it will be unchanged. It's whether or not I pay a little bit every time I use it and I keep $10,000, and I don't find, I don't know. I'm like, as I have it and as I'm using it, and I've been working on it quite a bit. Like, I keep thinking about, do I actually care if I own anything, right? And some of the best DPs out there own no gear. Like, they have nothing in their house. When they have a job that comes up, they have their AC, they have an assistant, they have someone else that goes and fetches the gear for them. They know how to use it when it's time to shoot, and it is what it is, right? They might keep a little package, a camera package at home, but everything else is something that they outsource. So they keep a lot of that money, and they don't have this. It's an asset to the business, absolutely, but it also depends on how often it's rented out, right? And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, well, and I'm thinking wildly too, because I'm thinking about this whole camera flip thing. I'm like, well, then if that's the case, then like, why not chuck it and then use that money to really get something like that'll get rented out a little bit more and have an investment that'll make more money. But I don't know, man. I'm gonna keep it for now. I still have a lot of stuff I got to shoot on. It's still a lot of getting used to it that I want to do, and that is what it is. Tim Daniel, Oni is an important thing to me. Oh, Tim, I'm guessing you're not close to rental shops and stuff like that. Like, I literally, like in Toronto where I live, I'm beside 5 of them. So it doesn't make sense, right? I'll still keep it, and I'll still, like I said, I keep saying this over and over again. I will keep it. I will still do things on it, but like in the position that I'm in right now, I can do either one and nothing would change. Like, I could rent it out every time I want to use it, nothing would change. Or I could own it, nothing would change. So that's kind of where I am right now. Yeah. So like exactly that, Tim. Like, if you're not close to it, then if you're not close to rental shops, own. But if you are someone that like can use things like, I think it's like Lens Rentals is the company, where I think they just deliver the rental to you. There's a ton of different places, and like ShareGrid and stuff. There's a ton of places in America that you could just rent things from, which I'm like astonished by. But like in Canada, like you have to live near a rental shop, or like you're not getting your hands on anything. Also, make sure you're insured. That's important. I just replaced the FX30 in my cart with your link. Oh, supporting where I can. Thank you. Hey, you asked me. I think I'm trying to see your AVI, but I think you asked me an AMA question a little while ago. So thank you for that. And also thank you for buying the FX30 using one of my links. I think that just put me over an Amazon bounty. So awesome. I tried the rubber band method on my filter. Hasn't worked. I've been texting the support team back for 5 days. Damn. I'm in Toronto, so it's also hard them to email that. They're in China. Yeah, man. That's a tough one, man. Added the tag. Look forward to seeing your feedback. But gear is also so nice to own, but totally understand. Plus gear devalue. Yeah, gear devalues, but I think like if you're using it, like you'll make your money. Like if my Komodo X devalued by like 25% every single year, I would have made more than 25% of how much the devaluation would have been every single time. So it's fine. Just getting to know and practice with gear long term is valuable. Yeah, it absolutely is. Again, I would say like I'm in a unique position where I have rental houses I can go to. So if I need to do those things, it's a quick drive. Like the Venice versus the Raptor video, for example, that was a pretty cheap rental. I got to go out, take it for a day, shoot a bunch on it, and that wasn't a one-time opportunity, right? So the idea is, well, if I can do that on an often basis, why not just do that when like jobs do come up, which is awesome. Man, we got a super chat from Max. This is dope. Just started my channel. Would love to hear your feedback. Let me see. Can I pull it up from where it is? No, hang on one second. I could do that. I think I can make like a quick little, guys, we are going to look at Max's channel real quick. Max Sotner. Your channel ain't new, bro. I seen you before. I saw the Cine Eye video. Who you lying to? No, you put out good stuff, man. I would just say, just continue doing it, man. I think you're on the right track. I think I like the fact that a lot of your branding is very consistent. But like if we look at kind of where like your output, I guess in a way, there's only been 4, 3, 4. There's about 20 videos in the last year, right? So it's hard for unfortunately, it's hard for the YouTube algorithm to be like, hey, we know exactly what this person's about and we know who to show it to. I found that that started to happen around like my 30th ish video, but I also posted like 15 videos a month when I started, so it's a little bit different. So I would totally say just keep doing what you're doing, and every so like once you get to about 30, 40 videos out, use your 90-day analytics and find the ones that work, like that worked the best and brought the most audience, or maybe had the most views, or whatever metric that you think is good. Use that as your kind of your North Star, and then try to find the intersection of like, oh, this video did well. Am I willing to make a video like that again? I think is the easiest way to do it. So that's what I find with like a lot of the FX6 content, because I love the camera, I loved using it, and people liked it. So I'm like, I'll just make more content about it, right? And did the same thing with the FX30, and well, now we're here. Got the FX3 and a good lighting package because of you, man. Yo, thank you. Honestly, like, I think there's two types of communities, I guess, in the filmmaking space in regards to gear. There's people that will try to tell you to buy the thing, and I feel like that list is incredibly small compared to what it used to be. But then there's also the people that just want to tell you the experience. I find some people demonize the whole gear community, but telling things through the experiences of using it also helps out a ton of people. And a lot of you guys that have kind of reached out and said like, hey, like you helped me make a decision that I had a hard time with. I'm like, that's way more important to me than appeasing the old school community that always wants to take a peg down from everybody who has a YouTube channel. Since you're in Toronto, do you need any good repair shops? It depends on what brand of the thing that you have. I know Gentech is in Markham, so it's a bit north. That would be any Sony Sigma stuff. Outside of that, because you have a filter, right? Tiffin's in New York, I think, if you're using Tiffin stuff. But camera repairs, I would hit up the rental houses. So you could hit up like a 2D. Viva is in Etobicoke. I'm trying to think. B-Cam Rentals is there as well. There is a new one opening up in Hamilton in a couple weeks. So yeah, Sony Sigma lens. Yeah, so Gentech, if you have Sony Sigma stuff, then Gentech is going to work for you because it's in Markham. It's easier to get to. But there's a bunch of like rental shops that I think might service gear, and it's worth it to ask. You're a first person. Xavier, where are you from? And if you're gonna say Ghana, I got more questions for you, because I've been contemplating doing a filmmaker meetup in Accra when I go, but I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do yet. Also, we got like 5 more minutes. I'll say for 5 minutes, 5:20. And then after that, I gotta eat, and I gotta go punch things for a couple hours. So I'll get like another 5 or 6 minutes. Damn, an hour 45. We've been going at it today. And I got a super chat, so this is great. Also, how do you guys feel about doing these live streams? I'm not gonna have a certain schedule to them, but I think I'm just gonna live stream whenever like I'm bored for an hour or so. How do y'all feel about doing those? Because I kind of feel like I'm gonna kind of do like when I have an hour and a half to spare and I'm like my setup's already set up. It's kind of fun. So if you guys want to see more live streams, leave a one in the chat. I don't know. Oh, St. Vincent's. Okay, that's yeah. So yeah, it would be tough. Like if you're in the Caribbean, it's hard to get camera gear out there. That's dope, man. You'll have a lot of fun with that, man. Loving them. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, bro, keep this up. More live stream. I think my biggest apprehension with the live streams is I always wanted to have a guest on them and have like a live show, but then I realized how unrealistic that is. But like where I am right now in terms of my client work and stuff like that, like I could probably fit in a couple live streams a week. But yeah, man, that'll be dope. Honestly, gave me more clarity. You honestly didn't worry about answering questions, so I'll be on the next. Awesome, man. No, like this is actually really dope. Only if you enjoy. I love live streaming. I think this is like if I could have my entire channel just live stream about stuff, I would probably do it. I actually think what I'm going to do going forward is I'm going to start this kind of like restarting series. There's also some videos that I have to go through. Like I still have to review the IRIX lenses. I have to do my Red Komodo X review. There's like videos that I kind of have obligations to, but I think I want to just do this whole like restart series and then like live stream whenever I can. I might like do live stream editing, or I might like do live stream critiques of some stuff. Like I want to be able to find the intersection of content that's going to be helping the most amount of people, but also stuff that I enjoy. Just do a gaming setup. Yo, I gotta find a game to play. I haven't played video games in a little bit. It's been really tough for me to get back into gaming. I used to play a lot of StarCraft. I played a lot of Pokemon. Like when Diamond and Pearl came out, I was a fiend. But now I don't play either of them anymore. Francisco, I will check out that Instagram reel once I get off of here, and I'm eating to get ready to go. But that'll be dope, man. I'll see you later. Do you do mentoring, Xavier? I have not opened up mentoring yet. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Because I do have a Discord, and I haven't used the Discord very much. I've been really bad at it. Let me see if I could leave the link to that Discord in the chat. And it would be great if you guys used it. Go into the intro section, introduce yourselves. Because I think I'm going to have the Discord chat to kind of have conversations like these as well when we don't have YouTube live streams, or also to let you guys know videos before they come out. So let me just open up this thing. And I'm actually going to I'm going to open up the Discord again, which will be dope. So that'll be a fun thing for us to be able to connect on. Okay, so it's not opening. Here's what I'm going to do. On the replay for this video, which is going to come out essentially whenever the stream ends, I'm going to leave a Discord link at the top of the description the second that I get off this link in about a couple minutes. So then once if you guys do have interest in like joining the Discord and having conversations like these and asking questions and all that other fun stuff, we could totally do that in there. Actually, no, hang on, it opened. One sec. Got it. So it's not this one. Text channels. Let me just see if I can find the invite link for this. Invite people. Okay, so hang on a second. Spider-Man 2 is coming out tomorrow. Fun fact, the guy that is the voice actor for Spider-Man 2 is the same voice actor of Sasuke from the English dub of Naruto. Okay, fine, but it'll be a live stream cast. That's funny. Hey, you know what? I might have guests on there, man. Like I want to make this a kind of a cool show. I always have a couple hours that I can kind of chop it up and stuff like that, especially between these YouTube uploads and filming stuff and planning different shoots. Like I always kind of have a couple hours, and like, I don't know, it'd be kind of cool. And like, truthfully and being completely transparent, if I provide enough value to do super chats, and like I'll just live stream even more. That's pretty much it. Yep, hearing some of these works for me. Keep doing what you do, man. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna leave this on for about another 4-ish minutes, just so you guys who want to join in the Discord can, and jump in. That also like, okay, in terms of being in this Discord, if I am not active on this Discord, yell at me, because that was one of the big problems that I had before. Was I wasn't active in my own Discord that I made, and that became a little bit difficult. So if I am not as active as y'all would like me to be, if I haven't posted anything in a couple days, just ask if I'm alive. Also, it's just kind of nice when people ask if I'm still alive. So yeah, I see a couple people piling in. All right, so with all of that, I am going to check myself out. Thank y'all for coming through this live stream. I was kind of skeptical about having enough guests and stuff in here, but a lot of you guys stayed. A lot of you guys came through, showed up, and showed out. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me, man. I'm just going to keep talking over myself, and that'll be kind of weird. So I'm going to check out of here. Thank you guys so much for coming to the stream. I'll see you guys in the Discord. Links for anything is in the description down below. If y'all want to check out digital products, go where you ever need to find them. If you guys can't find the digital products, send me a message. I'll send you a link. But I'll see you guys later. Peace.